Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Star Wars The Clone Wars figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at Commander Fox. Now I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research. Make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Star Wars figure review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, it's pretty much the standard Hot Toys Star Wars style packaging. We've got an image of the figure himself, front and center, a metallic foil Star Wars logo, and then the blue and yellow wraparound banner that's meant to tell us that this guy is indeed from the Clone Wars. There's also another product shot down below on that banner, and one more on the side of the box, once again on the banner, which is done in high gloss, so it does contrast against the satin finish for the rest of the packaging. Round the back, nothing exciting, just some warnings and legal information, as well as Hot Toys store locations. Normally I like these figure photography slipcovers when they make sense. Having a Phase 1 Commander Fox paired up alongside two Phase 2 Coruscant Guards or Shock Troopers doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Maybe this is something I missed and it happened in like a comic or something, so hardcore Star Wars fans, I'm calling on you. Let me know down in the comments below. Also, we have these burning embers just in front of them. They're standing on like a Venator or inside a Republic base. They're not mid-battle, so the embers also don't make a ton of sense. We also have Star Wars and Clone Commander Fox. Normally I wouldn't care about any of that, because the box is just the box. It's going in storage after I get Commander Fox out. But it highlights one of the most annoying things about Hot Toys' approach to clone troopers. They're not consistent at all. They use different molds for helmets, some that are accurate and some that aren't, and they don't stick to either Phase 1 or Phase 2. So it makes it very challenging to build out a comprehensive Phase 1 or Phase 2 display. Either way, I'm still really happy to have a Commander Fox by Hot Toys. I do have the Sideshow one, and will of course be doing comparisons. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box, and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, which is done in the typical Hot Toys rectangular style. The top part is just generic enough that it could literally be anywhere in the Star Wars universe, ranging from a Republic command post to a Venator to the inside of a cantina. It's entirely up to you. This time though, the top part is done in more of a greenish grey with some red undertones just around the edges. It's subtle, but in person you can absolutely see it. Round the front, Star Wars and Clone Commander Fox on an etched nameplate, and up top, an adjustable crotch grabber. For weaponry, it's the usual suspects. We get his much larger DC-15 blaster carbine, and this thing is absolutely huge. The sculpt work is very crisp all the way around, and there's a ton of soft silver dry brushing to make it look slightly aged and weathered. Then around the front, a little bit of blue on the tip of the barrel to make it look like this thing has been repeatedly fired. Next up, the much shorter DC-15S. Although some people call this the DC-15C. Just weigh in down in the comments below. Did I call it the right thing or not? Unfortunately, it does still retain the stock that can't quite actually work as a stock. The old Sideshow clones did this much better. Yes, the paint applications and sculpt work is nicer on the Hot Toys blaster, but the stock doesn't have a wide enough channel down below for it to slide back and in position. Maybe that's something that Hot Toys can address in the future. The iron sights are made of this softer rubbery plastic, so you shouldn't have to worry about them breaking off if you accidentally apply too much pressure to them. The one thing that I think we're sorely missing with these Hot Toys clones has to be blast effects. Even if they do decide to add them in the future, they should technically be backwards compatible, because the DC-17s and the DC-15S, they have holes in the barrels that you can plug stuff into. It's just the larger DC-15 blaster carbine that doesn't, unfortunately. These are finished in the same way as the other two blasters, a base layer of gunmetal with some silver dry brushing just on the high spots to bring out the sculpted detail. And lastly, some hands. We do get trigger finger hands, one for either side, but the grips are really tight, so trying to wedge literally any of the blasters in there is going to be a massive challenge. Heat them up first, and then try and insert the handles for the blasters. Two pointing gesture hands. For the left side, it's just with the index finger, whereas for the right, the thumb is sticking out, and then we have the top two fingers extended as well. But strangely enough, only one splayed out finger hand. Then lastly, two open palm hands already installed on him out of the box. What we are going to do now, though, is get Clone Commander Fox himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses, or accessories, or anything like that. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, this is just paint by numbers for Hot Toys. They know what they're doing with clones. They're expert cloners, they're even better than the Kaminoans, the body looks good, it's proportionate, the armor hugs that body well, the paint applications are crisp, but also the weathering is fantastic, and the material choices are spot on. I would have liked to have seen a couple of tweaks and changes, but overall, I can already tell you, I'm very happy with this guy. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Commander Fox's helmet. I mean, I like it, but it's not all that accurate, is it? Even compared to the Sideshow one, I prefer the Sideshow helmet. The mouth area where it comes to these really thin points is way more accurate to what we saw on Phase 1 helmets. And the antenna is supposed to be black. I literally checked reference from the Clone Wars where we saw Commander Fox in this armor, and yeah, the antenna was black, so I have no idea where Hot Toys were pulling reference from to get the white antenna. If you ignore the mouth and the antenna, everything else is fine. The sharpness of the edge for the bottom of the helmet, the visor looks great, and of course, all of the weathering. Having the chipping to show the white underneath the red and the scratches on the surface and that subtle pitting, that's all fantastic. It's just that I would have liked for Hot Toys to have focused on getting the basics right and then gone to town with the weathering. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm bashing this guy. I don't want to. I love this figure, but I do have to call out inaccuracies when I see them. At the very least, they've added the red on the back of the fin now. That was something that was missing for the standard Phase 1 clones. Now, for the back of the armor plating, we do have washers in the crevices, and that just helps all of this gorgeous and very fine sculpt work pop against the white for the rest of the armor. They have dulled down the white too compared to some of the other clones. Then we do have the darker maroon colored markings with the chipping so it looks like it's being scratched away. The armor does just almost free float on top of this ribbed fabric bodysuit, and it is actual stretchy spandex, so you don't have to worry about creasing or damage or wrinkling or anything like that when it comes to posing. You can even dial in the pose first, separate some of the armor plates, then once the pose is done, push everything back down so that you can avoid paint rub and get the most out of the range of motion for the body. There isn't a ton of padding to fight either, it's mostly just the sculpted plastic body, the ribbed bodysuit, and then the armor plating on top of that. You do have the Coruscant Guard markings around the front, at least I think that's what they're supposed to be, and the weathering plus the chipping does look significantly better than the Phase 1 Sideshow version of Commander Fox. I still would have liked to have seen a Phase 2 variant though, maybe sometime in the future. Now it's an asymmetrical design, meaning we have this comms pad on one side, but not the other. It's just a smooth armor plate on the left side. The belt is made of this rubbery plastic, and it can move around. It is more free-floating than some of the other clones, and I hope that's not mold degradation coming into play. The more Hot Toys use a mold, the weaker I suppose it gets, and the tolerances aren't as tight as they were originally. I don't mind being able to move it around, I just hope that it doesn't get too loose as they keep making more and more clones. Now the blasters do slot into the holsters quite securely, but for some reason the weight of the blasters pull the holsters back, so they always kind of reveal these little pins on the inside. I would have liked if they'd been adhered down to the Karma, which is made of fabric and there's dirt and grime over the top of it, so it looks nicely weathered, just like the rest of the armor. This, compared to the almost pleathery material that Sideshow used, I much prefer, because this is not going to degrade over time. You know what? I just thought about this, but why do we not have wires in the Karmas? We would be able to get way more dynamic with the posing. These things, they just sort of flap down, and yes, they drape well, it's just that wires, that would be icing on the cake. Maybe going forward with future ARC Trooper style figures, we can get wires in the Karmas. Who knows? It would also help mitigate this thing where it sort of sticks out over the top of the thigh armor, then sits down flush for the rest of it. You can also rotate the thigh armor in a little so that this front portion is facing forwards rather than outwards. That helps, but it still looks a touch unnatural. You can see the ribbed fabric bodysuit though poking out from over the top of the thigh armor. If you do want to close that gap, you can push it up and get that done. The crease down the front, nice and sharp. Same thing with the crease down the front of the calf armor. And the knee pads are made of a slightly softer rubbery plastic for the strap portion, which means you can flex them and they are adjustable. Then coming down to the feet, it is a split cut boot design, but because the armor plate does stick out around the back, it will prohibit you from being able to tilt the foot forward too much. Just enough to get this guy into a crazy pose, in my opinion. And then on the underside, some sculpted tread with a ton of weathering. For those who have both the Sideshow and now the Hot Toys Commander Fox, if you're wondering if you can pop the Sideshow helmet on, yeah, you can. It just slides right on there. Because there's no real neck connector, it's just this hollow cylinder, it just sits on the ball joint. And I am now tempted to display my Hot Toys figure like this. Yes, there's a super subtle color mismatch between the white for the helmet and the body now. It's not really all that noticeable in person, and from a distance in the display, I don't think it's going to jump out at you. But now having the accurate super thin mouth and the black antenna, I believe it's worth the trade-off. For a quick side-by-side comparison, it's Hot Toys Commander Fox on the left versus Sideshow Commander Fox on the right. Some people genuinely do tell me that they prefer the baggier look for the armor with the sticky outy shoulder pads and the doll-like proportions of the Sideshow clones. If that's you, I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you found something that you're proud to display in your Star Wars collection. I personally can't get around any of that. I like my figures to look realistic and proportionate, which the Hot Toys one does, and be able to stand without spending hours fighting a floppy and loose body. The Hot Toys one also has a fabric karma, not that pleather-like material, so no worries when it comes to cracking, and the weathering is so much more realistic. The only thing that I'd probably give to the Sideshow one would be the helmet. The mouth is more accurate, and the antenna is black as it should be. The Hot Toys helmet does look slightly large and maybe out of scale with the rest of the armor. This is a problem that I've had with all of Hot Toys Phase 1 Clone Trooper buckets. They wanted it to come across as though an actual human head could fit inside the helmet, rather than, in reality, all of the Phase 1 clones were CGI, so that's not something they had to accommodate for. Actually, you know what? Standing alongside the regular old Phase 1 white clone trooper, I reckon they've adjusted either how high the helmet sits on the neck connector or they've scaled it down a little. Because Commander Fox does look more in proportion compared to the basic clone. It's not enough that it's going to throw off either one in the collection, they still will look relatively uniform as clone troopers should. And lastly, Episode 2 Padme, because Commander Fox and Padme did have some screen time together in that 1 or 2 episode arc in the Clone Wars where I think he rescued her, if I'm remembering correctly. There was a thing with Zero the Hutt. I'll have to go back and watch those particular episodes. They look great standing together. Commander Fox is taller than Padme. Going over Commander Fox's articulation, it should be pretty familiar at this point. He's on the exact same body as all of the more modern Hot Toys clones, not the first 501st ones, they had a ton more ratchet joints. Starting off with his bucket, it's on a double ball peg, and the neck is on a ball joint as well. Looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. The shoulder pads are on elastic straps, so you can move them around, and they should tuck up underneath the chest armor as we move the arm up. Going forward and back on soft ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow, but the elbow pad strap does collide with the bicep guard. So I've found if you tuck it up underneath there, you will get a little bit more range. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. The torso is covered in two different pieces of armor, and they will collide and rub up against one another if you get a little bit too crazy. Crunching forward to there, going back to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. The legs will go forward to there on ratchets. If you do rotate the thigh guard, they will go slightly further forward, maybe 1 or 2 clicks. They will go out to there, not on ratchets. Swivel at the upper thigh, double bend at the knee on soft ratchets, and the same exact thing is happening with the knee pad as what was happening with the elbow pad. So just tuck it up underneath the armor plates, you'll get more range. Lastly, for the ankles, a double ball peg. Good for forward and back, swivel, as well as ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, once again, they've given us the incorrect style of mouth for the Phase 1 helmet. These lines, they're supposed to taper down to a very thin point. Having them be as chonky as they are just isn't right. The second annoying thing is it is insanely difficult to pop his blasters into his trigger finger hands. That's because they made the grip really tight. Someone commented on one of my other clone videos recently thinking that it was them, that they were just doing it wrong. I assure you, you aren't. You have to heat up the hands first, then you can pop the blasters in. Yes, I do prefer a tighter grip so that the blasters aren't flopping around in there, but I think there's a happy middle ground that Hot Toys could have achieved so that it wasn't as big of a struggle as it is. The third annoying thing, and I know we're back up here at the helmet, it's that his visor isn't as glossy as I think it should be. All of the other clones have super high gloss visors. For my copy of Commander Fox, it's more of a satin finish. The first cool thing, and I know they fixed this a while ago, I'm still pleased to see it. The holsters that the DC-17 blaster pistols slot into, they are nice and grippy, so when you do pop them in there, they're not going to fall out on you when you're trying to pose him. The second cool thing is that the Karma is not made of pleather or that neoprene style waxy material. It's just real fabric. There's dirt and grime on the surface, it's nice and thin, and it drapes well. The third cool thing is all of the pitting and scratching and wear and tear on the surface of the armor. It adds a lot of visual interest. And believe it or not, back in the day before Hot Toys started making clone troopers, that's when they really buckled down and got good at weathering. They struggled to make this look realistic. It came across heavy-handed and overdone. Whereas with Commander Fox, he shows us how far they've come. Or a bonus cool thing that doesn't actually really affect anything, I just thought I'd mention it, you can actuate his what would be antenna up and down. Completely unnecessary, doesn't change the way I'd ever display him, but it's there if you want it. Wrapping up on Hot Toys Clone Commander Fox. The question for me is, why? Why did they make this guy? I love the figure, don't get me wrong, he's awesome. But a lot of people really don't like Fox because of what happened with Vader in the comics. Granted, he was wearing Phase 2 armor at the time. He's nowhere near as iconic as, Cody, for example. And we still don't have, at the time of filming this video, an announcement for a Phase 1 Cody. He'd be really easy for Hot Toys to make. They have to take the Phase 2, modify a couple of bits and pieces, and give us a new bucket. Instead, they oddly decided to go with Commander Fox. I'm still happy he's going into the collection and he's replacing the Sideshow one, but I have a feeling that's why Hot Toys made him. They're slowly but surely trying to replace all of the Sideshow clones in our collections, because they know that if Sideshow made one, and people picked him up, then they're probably gonna wanna go ahead and upgrade it, and therefore they can sell this guy. Which tells me Commander Cody Phase 1 might be around the corner. At the end of this, is he worth picking up? That entirely depends on you. If you find yourself short of one Phase 1 clone trooper in dark maroon/red, this guy's going to do it for you. If you have no idea who this even is, and you've just seen the Star Wars movies but none of the other extended media such as the animated shows, you can probably just skip this guy, save your money, and invest in one of the future Hot Toys clone troopers for characters that you have heard of. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research. Make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button? if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.